is not being exploited properly by our own people. So, and coming out of that is the entrepreneurial system that you talk about, where you can help young men and women to buy a skiff with a pole and an engine.
Well, I
and
even
just get
thinking,
out there.
Mr. Smith, I even thinking bigger than that. I am thinking about going into the ghetto, into the areas where these guys are idle and they don't have nothing to do because they ain't into academics. Their life is at a stop, a dead end, and fund them because they are very creative. You know, what we need is allow them to create a product that can be exported and sold internationally.
But the PLP,
because they have
that.
talents.
You forgot that we had the investment fund that was established in the last year or so.
No, hold on. We couldn't get to that, man. I tried and all, Mr. Smith.
It was established in the last year or so. The
PLP
always had. There were some people who did. I don't know. I can't give you.
You got to be connected in this country to
listen, you had the investment fund. That was one additional stab that was being made at developing entrepreneurs. You had BAIC that was really created under the PLP long time ago. And it continued to thrive.
But the tape was so red. I don't want red tape.
No, but listen, the reality is, no, you can't not have red tapes. You have to have checks and balances.
Well,
I
understand.
You have to have a system whereby, for example, just because you happen to be a fellow or a young lady who is potentially wayward is not the reason why we should simply throw money behind you because you have an idea. The idea has to be assessed.
Oh, what about because your great-granddaddy contributed to the party or this or that? We just give you it without you even having a plan or proposal?
Now, I can tell you this right off the bat. I totally disagree with that kind of practice.
But that's what happens here.
But no, it happens in the Bahamas. Nepotism does not help at all. We have political organizations on both sides of the spectrum that practice that kind of activity. Enough of that. I mean, I've spoken publicly on it, and I'll continue to. And I'm not, one thing with Keod Smith is I'm the same way I was 10 years ago as I am today.
No,
I do not believe in that.
I have to slip this part in here because I was shocked. Several young PLPs who in leadership position in the PLP, they came to me and they said Utah, and I was shocked because I know them to be die-hard, crazy PLPs. They say to me, Utah, I am becoming frustrated with my party. I don't even know if I want to be a part of this party because they say the PLP is not a party for young people. They're saying that they went to the leader on several occasions asking to give them nomination or just to back them to run for certain areas. And the leader backed somebody else. And this is what the leader said. Because they have a history in the party. Their great-granddaddy played a pivotal role in this party. So they get the nomination even though it's alleged that this person may be corrupt, may be tarnished with drugs, and so forth. So listen, the young people are becoming, because this man has history.
Well, I think the first thing that the persons who would have spoken to you should do, and I would encourage them to do, is to read the constitution of the party. That's the first thing. And the reason why I say that is the leader does not determine who runs. We have a candidates committee, and it is a very vibrant one. Now, as to whether the candidates committee would go with a person who is known to be a PLP or not a PLP, is an issue that is peculiar to the party and peculiar to that particular committee. I am not one who believes that just because you happen to be Keod Smith's child, that you should have a leg up to be able to get a nomination above a Utah Taylor, who may not be known. Because you need to assess everyone on their own basis. And so the persons, though, who wish to run also need to understand the nature of the game of politics. See, politics is not just something that you come with your badge and say, you must take me. Politics is where you have to learn how to influence people. You have to learn how to do that. And a part of the game that you, as a person who wish to vie for a seat, is not to simply say just because you show up that you're supposed to get the nod. You're supposed to, first of all, study the game. Study the game, understand what the game is about, and then put yourself in such a way that it is impossible for them to say no to you. Me? I don't have anybody who was in the PLP.
But you know that don't run like that.
No, it does. I'm an example. I didn't have anyone who came before me to say, oh man, you know, my uncle or my daddy or whatever it is a big, strong PLP. You all know him. You all got to give me the nod. Keod Smith was head-hunted by the PLP because of what I was doing in the public domain. And they also knew me to be a PLP.
Man, I have big stripes in the PLP now. Guess why? I recently found out who 34 years to find my biological father. And when I check back, my granddaddy, Leader John Rolle, was one of the biggest stalwart councillors in the PLP.
That's right.
So you got stripes in the PLP now.
So that means, based on what you were saying now, you can come in and say, man, give me what I want, and then you'll be on the candidates list. But it doesn't work like that, Utah. But I can say that a person like yourself, for example, who's known for being articulate, who's known for having his finger on the pulse in terms of issues, is the kind of a person that I'm fairly sure the candidates committee look at, because that's the kind of person who would be able to convince the majority of the people in his determined area to vote for him.
Now, Mr. Smith, this is amazing. The people have spoken. I mean, they have spoken so much. I never thought I would see this day. The amount of people who are saying that they want Mr. Christie gone as leader is, I don't understand it. The people seem to have lost confidence in Mr. Christie to lead this party. Do you, or have you lost confidence in Mr. Christie as the leader of this party?
Well, unfortunately, because I'm running for public office in the PLP, I will not answer that question. But I will say this much. Mr. Christie has served the PLP well, admirably, fearlessly. You do have a number of people who are challenging him. That's the democratic process of the PLP. Yes. Despite what people may say, and that is to suggest that we are headed down a road of division, I don't think so. The PLP had a very serious, strong, and I would say even violent in political terms, battle back in 2000. And in 2 years after that, we were the government. That was, we were the government 2 years after. A number of people left the PLP in 2000. But we still became the government, because sometimes these kind of processes, although you as the person going through it don't like the feeling that you have going through it, sometimes it's a cleansing process. Sometimes it is. Because those people who would sit apathetically on the side, who are strong PLPs, may decide to come to the fore and say, now hold on now. Some things happening in this party, we ain't gonna just let it happen. I believe that the amount of delegates that they anticipate is going to increase by 10%, 20%. Because of the dynamic processes that has been going on in the pre-convention stages in terms of all who's running, what they're running for. But that's the nature of the PLP. And the key is for us to stay together. And I have no doubt that the PLP will be a formidable force come Saturday of this week.
Well, we just about almost just ready to wrap up. But I might, the people out there will crucify me, Mr. Smith. They would say, I had Keod Smith on my show. And I asked him, you have anything to say with the Kennyatta in the house, the thing would go on now? No. You have anything to say to the Bahamian people? But
nothing whatsoever. I've said all I had to say about it a long time ago, and as far as I'm concerned, the matter is finished.
Because you know this stuff died down, but you know when you put yourself back out in the public, people tend to bring up old stuff, whether it's relevant or significant.
But you see, the reality is this, and this is much as I would say. I was attacked by the young man. I repelled him. If I were attacked by anyone else, I'll do the same. It's nothing changed. I have to protect myself so that I can continue to protect my family. And so I would not allow anybody to physically manhandle me. You can say anything to me you wish, you know. You can't talk about my mother, God rest her soul. You can't talk about my wife.
You can fight if I talk about your mother.
You can't talk about my children. No, I mean, you can have a real issue with me.
Okay.
But despite all of those things, I will not put my hands out. I was not trained that way. And I'm trained in the arts. I'm talking about the martial arts.
Yes, I saw it.
I will not put my hands out to touch anybody in anger. But as soon as you become angry and you determine to put your hands to touch me or any of my loved ones or people who I respect, then it is my duty to myself and to those around me to protect myself. Not going to change that. Mr. Gibson showed his true colors. He left the PLP. He is no longer part of the PLP. And so in the scheme of things of this week, he is of no significance whatsoever. And so I will say this much to you, as I'm saying through you, to the rest of the Bahamas and the media world. This is the last utterance that I would have about Kennyatta Gibson. And so you have had the opportunity of having the last say.
Live!
You're going down
TV.
in history.
Wow.
No more.
Awesome.
Yes.
I was chastised saying that I guess they didn't like the way I speak when I have a member of parliament on the show. Somebody said that to me. If you think I speak wrong for being myself, for being down to earth, just text in and let me know. I mean, you saw anything wrong with the show today?
No, not at all.
I don't think I need to be articulate and proper and press.
No, but you are, and I'll say this much as truly my last point. And the reality is that you have different people who can reach different people. And in the scheme of things, a leader is a person who knows how to shift his approach.